Howdy, folks. Happy Wednesday, happy hump day, or happy Thursday, excuse me. I'm doing an act here. Jeez. I'd have to explain the reason why I thought it was Wednesday, but nobody cares about that. So, well, we have a pre-show. Ack will be joining us. Russ is already here. Go ahead, Russ.
Oh, let's talk about a tweet from Cecil Lammey, who is a writer for the Professional Football Writers Association, also has a radio show because, of course, he wrote about the Jets, and the first knee-jerk reaction from Jets fans is, well, how can we believe this report? Because, nobody has confirmed it. Well,
he's a Denver radio host. He's a writer out of Denver.
Yes. Newsflash. San Francisco is not going to confirm it, and definitely the Jets are not going to confirm it, and the Jets have not refuted it. I think that's the biggest story here, and here's what the story is. So when the Jets were trying to trade Sam Darnold, who is from the West Coast, 49ers wanted him. And I kind of wondered when they traded him to Carolina, A, why they got so little, and B, why didn't the 49ers get in on this? We didn't hear anything about the 49ers. Well, apparently they were in on it, and they were going to give the Jets a first-round pick, but then the Jets wanted to wait to see how Zach Wilson's shoulder was at his pro day. Well, here's the thing about that. You should have traded Darnold for the first-rounder because you were trading him anyhow. And if you went to the pro day and Zach Wilson maybe held his shoulder, didn't look great, well, then you go take Justin Fields. That's the way you should have gone anyhow, and you have the other first, and you build your team. You don't hold up. See, again, they held up the market. Teams are not going to wait for the Jets to trade Sam Darnold to them after someone's pro day. They want to make decisions before that. So this was a last-second best deal that Douglas could get, but it wasn't the best deal out there.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the three-way deal between Philadelphia, Miami, and San Francisco happened before the Darnold trade, right?
Yes, but we don't know. This writer has been working on this since February.
Right. So I'm not saying that the discussion.
This is before that.
I'm not saying that that the supposed discussion between San Francisco and the Jets didn't happen.
Yeah.
Didn't happen before San Francisco made their move. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, I just listened to a podcast that was discussing the quarterbacks and how they're going to go in the first round, and it sounds like San Francisco is going to take Mac Jones from Alabama, and then Atlanta or I think it's Atlanta at number 4 may take a tight end or may trade down or might take.
Yeah, that tight end's like all world. I forget.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing is, and I'm not defending Joe Douglas here, but I don't know. I don't know how much I buy the fact that they could get. And remember, it wasn't the 3rd overall pick. I think San Francisco had 12.
Right.
So
and that's why they were willing to offer it up. If it was the 3rd overall, they wouldn't offer it up.
I don't know how much I buy that. With all the question marks about Darnold, that somebody was going to be willing to give up in the top half of the first round for him.
But this is all the questions about Darnold are mainly East Coast questions. People on the West Coast who watched him in college, who know him from that area, still believe in him. And not everybody has been bashing Darnold since that trade. A lot of people have been coming out, especially players, saying, we think Darnold's going to be okay, especially because, and I forget, is it Joe Judge? It's somebody who is with Carolina, is very good with quarterbacks, and we know San Fran's great with quarterbacks. So when you have guys on staff that believe they could help somebody and get them back to what they should be or beyond, then that's why they believe in them, and people in the New York area don't. So again, this is just the Jets outsmarting themselves, honestly.
Yeah, yes. If everything reported is true, then yes. Then they screwed it up by waiting too long. But they would not be the first team that is screwed up a potential trade for in a situation by waiting too long or jumping too early. So
no, but you understand, we knew there'd be a market for Darnold, but you also have to know it's going to be limited. And if you put a team off that's willing to give you a first, then you're not getting a first again. And that's what they basically walked away from that no matter what.
Well, the biggest issue here is the fact that you knew if it wasn't going to be Wilson, you were going to take a quarterback at 2. So what was the point of holding on to Darnold?
Right.
The one thing is, okay, Darnold is not going to be your starter while the other guy.
No, that was never going to happen. We were all thinking, are they going to do that? But we knew they never would do that.
Yeah. Now, I just want to talk about this briefly, and I always hesitate to get political, but the reason I hesitate is because I don't want it to drag down what we really want to talk about, which is sports. Now, I'm not the biggest Brett Favre fan, but Brett Favre apparently came out, and there was an article in USA Today saying, I can't tell you how many people have said to me, I don't watch anymore. It's not about the game anymore. And the reason that apparently that people are saying to him they don't watch anymore is because players are kneeling and players are getting involved in politics. Right. Now, okay, that's their right, and like I said, we know why the NFL has promoted the national anthem at the beginning of games because
it never used to be. There was so many years that they didn't do it. We went through the 80s without it happening.
I used to go to Bills games, and the Bills would, and most NFL stadiums would do the national anthem at 12:55 before the 1 o'clock. Before they would cut to the game at 1 o'clock, and the 1 o'clock was, kickoff, and there you go. And now, but this is the thing. Everybody has got a right to speak about politics. One side or the other. But what we are getting into now is, okay, Colin Kaepernick, he took a backlash for his point of view. Now we're going at the other end of the spectrum. Brett Favre is known to be a politically conservative, and he's coming
amongst other things.
Amongst as well being a pervert because he's showing pictures of what on his phone. But he's known to be, and he's taking the backlash because he's conservative. So there's backlash on both sides. I am of the opinion I wish we could just you want to say something politically, be my guest. You're a citizen. You have every right, but keep it off the field.
Just keep away from sports. That's why we have our big rules here at Hockey Buzz. That we've always stuck by. And it's really you
realize this whole argument wouldn't happen if they didn't play the anthem in public.
I know. And that part of that is because there's a nationalism that came around this country, which and some of it's great. I think people should be proud of their country. I'm very proud of our country. I get pissed off sometimes that because I'm a Democrat, people say I'm not proud of my country, which absolutely pisses me off because my dad was in the military.
It should piss you off.
I grew up in the military. I saw my dad serve in 2 wars. I'm definitely not whatever, but so I can be proud of I'm allowed to be proud of my country. So that's the anyway. It does have to stay away from sports. Okay,
that's not exclusive of being a liberal or being conservative.
Right? It's not.
Yeah,
it's not. And there's anyone who goes either way. So to me, we got to keep away from sports because.
And you know what? I'm almost sure that when they did the anthem and it was at 12:55, the players didn't come out on the field. They didn't. They came out at 1 o'clock, and they did the whole pom pom with the cheerleaders, and they ran down the thing with the smoke and everything. And they came out, and then they started, and they did the coin flip, and they started the game.
Yeah.
So you know what?
The most political. Look, it's easy to say keep politics out of sports, right? But since the 30s, it's been in the Olympics. It's been embedded with the Olympics, and it will never go away. There's nothing you could say to
make it go away. The Olympics, things that happened. There's some horrible things happened to the Jewish Olympic team over in Germany. All these things. That stuff definitely threw politics and sports into the same.
Russ was correct to say 1936. The Olympics were in Berlin, and Marty Glickman didn't get to run in the relay race because he was Jewish.
Right.
So it's and obviously
it's always been about politics. The Olympics.
Yes.
And that is sports. So unfortunately, it does get involved sometimes.
That's why
there's politics and there's racism and there's all different kinds of things they're not necessarily intertwined. The whole thing is just they tend to be lately, but they haven't always been. There used to be racists that were both Republicans and Democrats that were racist. There still are, and they always will be. And the reality is no one owns racism either. So
Avery Brundage was one of the biggest racists to think of. But anyway, let's start hockey.
Let's start. We're sorry that we brought this. No, we're not sorry we brought this up, but it is important. I get it. I get
we brought it up because it's being talked about.
No, it is being talked about. We try to just do the best we can not to get into it, but we have to sometimes.
We don't use it as commentary while talking about hockey.
No, definitely not, because we have to.
This is not. This is not Crossfire. Okay, let's go.
No, it is not Crossfire. All right, ready? Okay, the date's the 15th. Used to be tax day, but not anymore.
Yep.
No.
That's kind of messed me up. No, it's April 19th now. April 19th is now.
May 17th.
May 17th now? I don't know anymore.
May 17th.
May 17th, Mike. It's been extended.
That's
to May 17th. Yeah.
They gave a deferment, but I paid my taxes already, so I don't.
Well, that's good. No, it's
Okay.
Bully for
anyway, April 15th is such like an iconic date in your head. That's why I was saying it. Anyway, let's move on. But it hasn't been for like 3 years now, so that doesn't matter. World Hockey World. It is Thursday, April 15th, 2021. I give up.
On the right, Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen, and nothing is what it seems for the last 2 or 3 years.
Oh, man.
That's just the way the world is.
Here I am, stuck in the middle with you, Eklund from HockeyBuzz.com.
Steelers.
You're watching Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. Thank God you are. This isn't the Lear Hour. Remember that we do this podcast Monday through Friday for you, and the company's going to the Hockey World. I got all thrown off. I'm using my phone as internet today to test my microphone and see if that changed anything.
It's still a little choppy.
It is. Okay, great, fantastic. That's awesome. Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Now you're allowed to say that. I appreciate you saying that. I mean, actually,
I feel bad. It's like you're worried about the whole setup, and now it just.
And it still sucks. I changed it now to another microphone. We'll see what happens. All right. Let's see. Soon, I'm just going to throw this computer through the window. That's all right too. I can do that too. I have a bunch of others around me right now. So, all right, let's move on. Last night.
Yes.
What do you got, Mike? I was up really early this morning working on finishing up my projected standings for the rest of the league. So I really didn't pay attention. I was up late last night. So tell me what happened last night. I'm a person who's just tuned in. What happened last night?
Let's start with what Russ and I were talking about before the start of the show, which was the Montreal Canadiens. Who
yes, thank you. That's good. Thank you. I remember this happened. Yes,
they've lost 4 of their last 5 without Carey Price. They lose to the Calgary Flames 4-1 last night. Calgary's very, 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 very slim playoff chances are still alive.
We talked about this yesterday. It's possible.
Yes. Now, Russ points out, and I'll let Russ carry the ball here, that a certain trade deadline addition has not helped them out too much.
No, Eric Stahl. So I decided to look into what Eric Stahl has been doing, and
that's true.
The team is 1-4 since they've gotten him. He's a -7. He has literally got 8 shots on goals in 6 games, and one of them was in the overtime 3-on-3 when, of course, it's easier to score a goal. He's taking playing time away from Jake Evans and some others. Yeah. Evans is down to like 9 minutes a game some games. At some point, you've got to pull the plug on this and just use him if you have an injury and just say, hey, Eric, we tried. We'll use you again. But right now, we got to win games and we got to play our best players.
Well, and that's what I said. It's like I said to Russ, they're not going to pull him because Mark Bergevin spent 2 draft picks on him. So,
and this is why, like, talking to some people, like, around the NHL, they were shocked at how much he got for Stahl. Like, they were shocked at how much Buffalo got for Stahl. Honestly, they got almost what they got for Taylor Hall. I mean, it's like really, it's kind of crazy. Like, and when you think about the whole thing, they got, what they got for Stahl.
They got a 3 and a 5 for Stahl, and they got a 2 in Bjork for Hall and Lazar.
They got more for Hall, but if you in the beginning of the season, would you have said that would have been anywhere near that close to a comparable? I mean, it's like this, and the way Stahl played this year, he didn't play much better than Taylor Hall. Honestly, he was really pretty much in the same boat. So yeah, I think that, and I know he came in and had a really great first game and, scored a goal in overtime, and everyone's like, this is the greatest thing's ever happened. But yeah, I mean, adrenaline runs out, you have to, like, and we've seen this with traded players all the time, adrenaline. That's why if you don't get a big boost from a traded player right away, it tends to not be good. It tends to not be. If a guy comes in and doesn't impact your lineup, you're not going to get more impact from him. Like, you want to get the initial impact. That's when you want to build the confidence and suddenly get the momentum going for that guy.
My point is that, if he continues to play like this, they will have no option.
And how many games can you play him like this, though? That's really the question.
Russ, as long as they're in the lead, then they'll keep in there.
I watched a ton of Sabres games this year.
Assets for him. They're not going to sit him.
I watched a ton of Sabres games this year because it's like a car accident. You couldn't walk away sometimes, and I would look into it, and I would just look, and I would go through games. And Eric Stahl is one of my favorite players of all time. He's like one of those guys
I like that too. I do.
I would put him up there, like and when he was like going hard with the Carolina Hurricanes and winning, and when he was on the U.S. Olympic team and dominating, I mean the Canadian Olympic team, sorry, and dominating.
Yeah, he was great.
So when I watch the Buffalo Sabres and I go through games, and then after the game I say to myself, wait, is Stahl hurt? Was he scratched? And go back and I look and I know he played 18 minutes. I was just like, what the heck? That doesn't seem possible. Like I would know every shift Stahl was on the ice. That's even in the Olympics, you would know every shift Stahl was on the ice.
Right.
He seems like he's lost 3 inches in height. And that's a weird thing to say.
No, but I think there's something.
You know what I mean by that? You know what I mean by that? It doesn't, he was always big. Like he skated big. He was a very upright skater. And his something about his stance now. Like if you look, I would love to see video of him skating back then and skating now. Because when I watch him now, it's like that can't be Eric Stahl.
My big thing is like Mike looked up Jake Allen, and Jake Allen hasn't played great during that time.
Yeah,
Jake Allen's not preventing Eric Stahl from shooting the puck. That's really the issue. Eric Stahl should be shooting the puck 3 or 4 times on net per game. That has nothing to do with Jake Allen. He's averaging
it doesn't
2 shots a game.
It doesn't, but what I'm saying is, okay, this is a team without Carey Price, with Jake Allen in goal, and Jake Allen early in the year was putting up really great stats, not as much now. And what I'm saying, all I'm saying is, I don't think it's all on Stahl.
No, it's not. And I'm not saying it is. All I'm saying is.
But he's not making a difference.
Right. He is not making a difference. If we focus on his play, he has not made a difference all season. Everybody blamed it on the Sabres. Well, now he's away from the Sabres, and we're getting the same results.
Yeah.
All right, and let's remember something about Stahl that's really important. He was traded by the Wild for what reason?
And he never wanted to be traded.
He never wanted to be traded, and they really didn't want to trade him either. Like it killed Guerin to have to trade him because I know Stahl had said because they wanted. I mean, Stahl is such an iconic player. Just built a house, and he knew how set up. Guerin did not want to trade him, but he realized he had to. Why did he have to trade him?
Well, he said culture, but obviously he saw more than that.
Yeah, but culture was a big part of it, right? And culture, because you have a young team in Minnesota, like you have in Montreal, that is building towards the future, and the young players are taking over the room, right? And in Buffalo, you brought that in. Buffalo's like, well, the young players really weren't taking over the room, so maybe he comes in there and helps them. Or in Minnesota, they were starting to get him. Now in Montreal, they were taking. In Montreal, he's having the same issues I think he had in Minnesota. To be honest,
it wasn't about the room in Buffalo. It was the fact that they needed a second line center, and they thought Stahl was still good enough to play second line center because they didn't want to put Middlestat or Cousins or somebody like that into that position. Now the thing is, he didn't play well in Buffalo, but again, I love the fact that again. Jeff Skinner didn't play on the top line with Eichel, where he had his greatest success, and he didn't play on the second line with Stahl, where he had his greatest success in Carolina.
Right, so, that was the other thing we thought about, right? We thought about that would be right. We thought that would make sense, right? Putting him with Stahl, but that didn't happen either. Skinner and Stahl, like both of them were a disaster. How could you not at least try to get them to get each other going? I mean, that was the zeros. That was really one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. I mean, I think Russ and I were at a game where they put them on a line together. Remember?
Yes,
they were there, but it turns out they were just out there for a face-off. It was just they only had him out there for a defensive face-off, I guess, in case one got thrown out.
Look at this! They're finally together.
I yell over to Russ, who's 20 feet away because we're socially distanced. I'm like, Russ, through my mask. Oh,
it was funny, actually.
It's ridiculous.
You're better off texting them.
I know. I mean, I think Stahl and Eichel, I think, could hear me yelling to Russ that Stahl and Eichel were on the line together because they were literally right in front of us. They were 10 feet away. There were no people between us and them. Anyway, I agree. No, and Montreal's in trouble. Montreal is definitely in trouble. It's
they
crazy.
Need Price back. That's what they need.
It's crazy to say that they need Price back for sure. They need a good Price back.
Any Price back at this point, really.
Yeah. But they have Toronto obviously is sitting there salivating at this because it's like
no negatory.
All right, okay, yeah, because Mike, that is interesting. I agree with you because the worse Montreal gets, the scareder Toronto will be about that.
Price, Eric Engels said Price could be back this weekend.
Yeah, and Toffoli, remember, it's not just Price. It's Price. It's Toffoli. It's Sherratt.
Sherratt's a big loss for them.
Sherratt's a huge loss.
Sherratt's a huge loss. And then now they mix up.
Sherratt was actually, I thought, in the bubble and the beginning of the season was maybe their MVP. at times. Like he really was
he's
that
been
good.
playing great, no doubt.
So he was a revelation last year in the playoffs. I thought like he completely found another thing. So yeah, he's a big one. Now they're going to come back, and I honestly don't think it matters how Toronto or how Montreal are playing when they play each other. I think it's going to be a war no matter what you do.
It will be a war.
But and it'll be tough no matter what.
That's why Toronto armed up. That's why they went and got bigger, and that's why they armed up. Much to the chagrin of a guy named Stan Fischler, who wrote this ridiculous commentary that was 100% trollish, and he quoted John Ziegler. And again, don't quote John Ziegler. He was the worst commissioner in the history of the NHL.
Is John Ziegler in mothball somewhere?
It's a big start. It's a bad start. It's a bad start to
John Ziegler. But for him to say the Leafs are doing it wrong, they made all these wrong moves, is wrong to say, and it was just really a misleading article. And I don't like that kind of coverage. I don't.
And for every article like that, you would have had the exact opposite if you had had somebody like if they didn't make the Foligno move and they didn't make the move for
they would have been like, what are they not doing?
What are they
on his hands?
Yeah, I mean you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion one way or the other, but I mean, but other than the Flames game, the interesting thing last night was Grubauer is on the COVID protocol, and it sounds like he is positive.
Yeah, it does seem that way.
Which is, I think, the second time he's had it, so he must have the variant.
And after this, I do have a Canucks update. I'll tell you that.
So I mean, now the big concern with the little COVID update here, Grubauer was out, but I believe they did play Devin Dubnyk last night.
He played great. I watched him.
Yeah, so I mean, this is why you needed to add a goaltender.
Now they were playing Vegas, right?
Yeah, they're playing St. Louis.
St. Louis is the best 6-on-5 team in hockey, apparently, when they pull the goalie. And Dubnyk made a save that Flyers fans wish Carter Hart could make, and a lot of teams where 2-on-1, he went and played the shooter, and when the shooter didn't shoot, he quickly went to the other side of the net, and because he's 6'5" and has long legs, he was able to make that save. And that's why I said when they acquired him, just acquiring a bigger goalie sometimes is better just because of something like that, especially if teams are scoring a certain way against you. And it was an amazing save at a big time, and he got away.
It was a great save. I did see it.
That's the textbook, right? Textbook, that's the way you're supposed to do it.
Well, yeah, no, you did. Well, you did it exactly right. But to be honest, it's actually beyond textbook because honestly, in that situation, he's supposed to let his defense. He's supposed to concentrate on the shot. His defense are supposed to pick up the pass, right? So that's. But but you have to also know as a goalie, like 80% has to be shot, 20% has to be like what happens if the defender misses the pass. So that's so you have to be able to shift that gear really quickly. And to Carter Hart's credit, and to defend Carter Hart a little bit, and I think he does need a little defending on this year because it wasn't all like complete disaster, but it wasn't all his fault.
It's not all on him, no.
But I think part of it was that there were many situations where this happened and Hart was trusting his defense to pick off those passes and they didn't. And there were many open net goals against Carter Hart, and granted now Hart, the only way to get across that quickly and where Hart has like a little bit of like a death spiral going on in a 2-on-1 situation. This is what I've seen at least. So in a 2-on-1 as a goalie, okay, you're in a breakaway for a goalie. You come out, and as the guy comes towards the net, you skate back, okay, and you move back with him. That blocks the angle and also gives you the ability to move side to side quicker because the closer you are, it's just math or whatever angles. The closer you are to the net, the quicker you can get from side to side of the net. Further out, it takes a lot more room to go from side to side to cover the net. So when a 2-on-1, the same kind of situation, you want to come out and challenge the shooter, but you want to be back a little bit more because you want to give yourself 3 feet to get across instead of 6 feet to get across. Because you're out further on the angle, you're leaving it's way harder to get over to the other angle. Back further, quicker. Like if you're back in the net, that's why like guys like Steve Mason, that's what the guy in Winnipeg, the goalie in Winnipeg does so well. These guys, and this was also a big Lundqvist thing. Stay back in the net further because that enables you to go quickly from side to side. But in order to do that, you got to be really quick with your hands.
That move because his defense did let him down. Hart lost all confidence in himself being able to stop those.
Right. So then he's thinking my defense isn't going to get the shot, So his focus goes to like, instead of 80% shot, 20% what if happens if it doesn't, it goes to like 50% or 60% what happens if it doesn't. So therefore the shot,
he starts cheating.
He starts missing the shot or cheating. Even if you're not cheating, it's just where your head is on the play, because if that pass goes on, your first thought is immediately, you've got to push off immediately with your leg. On a shot, you're reacting with your hands and things like that. So it's completely. Yeah. So I think that
Joe Sakic again pulled another feather out of his cap.
And Dubnyk is a great. We knew this when Dubnyk
was a good pickup for them. I mean that was why I trumpeted it a little bit. I do want to mention I was listening to Sirius XM, and my compatriots over there got an update from the Canucks. So they are at practice. They're not necessarily practicing because they're all getting tested first. But besides all getting tested, they have a cardiologist there checking each and every player, checking their heartbeat and everything. So
I know a little bit about this because my wife does is these portable cardio ultrasound machines. That she's an engineer, and that's one of the things she's built and designed, and that they're using one of these for to check. There's certain things you can check with a ultrasound of your heart, and it's especially with athletes, it's used quite often.
So it's still not a guarantee they're playing tomorrow. That's what
this is the I was gonna say this is the asinine thing. They're being let into the practice facility on Friday, and they're playing on Friday, or at least they're scheduled to play on Friday. Plus, it's not just they're playing on Friday. They got 3 games in 4 nights. They play Toronto Saturday and Monday in Vancouver. I don't think those games should be played.
Well, I will tell you this. JT Miller, and I've interviewed him a bunch, is a very honest guy. And sometimes he says what you want him to say, and sometimes he says something you didn't expect him to say, and maybe not what you wanted him to say, but he says it anyhow. And that means from a team perspective.
Yeah, for sure.
What he said was that this has definitely affected him. The layoff has affected him. When he was back on the ice, he felt it in his lungs, and he is not in game shape. And he is telling you that now. And he said it's hard to believe that we're supposed to have one practice and then we're getting back out there.
Are they still planning on playing Friday night right now?
Yes. Well, that's the idea of it. And he didn't say he's against it. He's just saying we're not physically ready. If I'm not physically ready, he's thinking so are some of his teammates. And
here's another thing about this, Russ. And Mike, the fear is here, like me being such a great lover of the Edmonton Oilers, and Mike enjoying his time with Toronto Maple Leafs. We play Friday and Saturday against the Oilers. Play Friday, the Maple Leafs play them Saturday. To me, I don't know that those guys aren't contagious still. Like, to be honest, I mean, we can sit there and say, you're throwing your players out there. We don't know who's had shots and who hasn't had shots. And I also heard yesterday something through the grapevine that some of the Canadian teams have gotten shots that they're not going to talk about.
Heard that, so I don't know.
They're not going to report it. I'm not reporting it either. I'm just saying there is a feeling out there.
Okay.
That certain players or certain situations, if a player has like anything they can find that's like a reason why he might need a shot because he's, whatever, maybe he has some sort of condition or whatever.
High blood pressure.
High blood pressure. And a lot of players, like blood pressures and anxiety, and there's all different sorts of things. I'm not saying one way or the other. Okay. I'm not accusing anybody of doing anything. I don't have any facts to back this up. I'm just saying there is a feeling out there that the Canadian teams are getting more vaccinated than we are being led to believe. Now that's for what it's worth.
The other thing in this,
but Mike, you agree with me about that? Like for a second, I mean, like Toronto's going in on Saturday to play the Vancouver Canucks.
Toronto's already going through a scare right now. I mean, okay, William Nylander was in a 7-day quarantine. He's apparently tested negative for 6 days. He's got to have one more negative test to clear protocol. The Toronto Marlies have been shut down until next Wednesday. Nick Robertson was placed on the COVID protocol list because he was with the Marlies, but he got taken off of it today because he tested negative. But yeah, I mean, you don't know how contagious this is. And I if I was the Leafs, I would be a little.
You're also bringing this variant like from Vancouver and Ontario together, like we don't know if it's the same variant or what have you, but you're bringing this stuff together. So to me, like I know Austin Matthews had this virus way back, way back, right? But but he obviously had the first version of it. He didn't have the variant because that was when he had it. He was like the first hockey player we even heard that had it. Remember, this was way back before the bubble of the playoffs.
Yeah, and
so I mean, he got it in Arizona. So it's me. I can't help but think there's other too, and I think that this is like we're at a humanitarian. It's become a humanitarian thing to a degree of like.
It is, but here's the other part I was going to get into.
You go, Russ. Go, please.
So when you're playing 19 games in 31 days, the recovery period is not enough for these guys who haven't been practicing, who are out of condition. Right. That is not enough time to recover. It is just not.
What I'd like to know, and this is the thing. We had the argument at the beginning of the year, oh, they're not, nobody's going to get the 56 games. Well, it looks like everybody except maybe the North Division is going to get to play 56 games. Like we didn't think that.
We just accept that the North Division isn't, and stop making the Canucks try to do this.
Let me finish my thought. Baseball, nobody thought they were going to get to 60 games. They ended up getting to 60 games. But in baseball, you can play doubleheaders, and you can't play doubleheaders in the NHL. The problem here is, I'm sorry, NHL, if the reason that you're not allowing the Canucks to forfeit games is because of advertising or programming, I'm sorry, forfeit the friggin' games. It's ridiculous that they have to play 19 games in 31 days. Just forfeit them.
Right.
I know. All we need to find out is if Montreal is going to suck the rest of the year. If Montreal's okay, then this division doesn't need to play any more games. You know what I mean? Because that's the reality is Montreal has to fall apart for Calgary or Vancouver to make the playoffs.
But I think one of two
things are showing signs of falling apart right now, which is interesting.
Right. But I think one of two things have to happen. I think Mike's right. I think the league either has to say, we're going to extend the regular season a few more days so they have more recovery time and can get these games in, or they have to say, listen, Canucks, it's up to you. If you're going to forfeit these games because, the guys aren't ready, we understand, forfeit whatever you have to, and just start forfeiting one after the other after the other.
What I'm saying, Russ, is okay. They've missed. I don't know the exact number, but I think it's like 7 or 8 games. Those games should be forfeited because otherwise, what they're going to have to do is reschedule those 7 or 8 games to intersperse with the games that are already existing and maybe extend the season. And I'm like, okay, if you want to get to 56 games, if that's your goal, then forfeit the Vancouver games. It's not their fault. They nobody got COVID on purpose, but those games should be forfeited. Yeah. And they play out the remainder of their schedule with the time. Right now it's packed. Imagine putting 7 or 8 more games.
If I'm the Maple Leafs owner right now, okay, and that game's coming up on Saturday. Yes. I'm talking to the NHL about this, and I'm saying I am going to forfeit the game. I don't need it. I'm just saying for the Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs could do it because the Maple Leafs could say, listen, I'd rather not travel to Vancouver, all the way to Vancouver.
That's a valid point.
That's a valid point.
And my team's in the playoffs. We're going to win the division. Who cares?
The problem is that the ownership of the Leafs is the broadcast networks. They're not going to That's their program.
How deep this goes, Mike. How deep this goes. I know because you're right. But I will tell you this though. Okay, there are two. If this is the Vancouver Canucks who don't have a lot of power with the NHL. And that also plays into it because I've learned over the time I've been doing this, the teams that have power with the NHL and the teams that don't. If this was the Rangers going through this, if this was the Canadiens going through this, the Bruins, the Flyers, the Leafs, the Blackhawks, there are certain teams that if they were going through this, they would be figuring it out how to not play 56 games. They would be figuring that out.
What really bothers me, what bothers me about this is. And someone pointed out, Chris Lizza pointed out on Twitter that Miller may not even have had COVID, and he feels this way, like he's out of shape, and his lungs are, not right. And I'm not blaming the NHL, but what I'm saying is, you do have to at some point just get together and say, okay, these guys. Imagine these guys are warriors, right? If it were you, me, none of us would be playing. None of us. We would all be like, hey, we're going home. We can't do this. Whatever. These guys don't do that. They don't know what that's like. So somebody else has to pull the plug. Somebody else, because again, even if everybody passes today, right? Let's say everybody tests negative, everybody passes the heart test. They're still so far out of shape that they probably need 3 or 4 more days just to get in game shape.
I think the Canucks are smart to bring a doctor. I think what you said, Russ, I think is true, and I think the Canucks are smart to bring a doctor in.
And the NHL and the NHLPA are being represented there, and I guess there's going to be a meeting of the players, and they're going to decide. And honestly, if I were the players, I would say I don't think we're ready to play. And I think the solution should be for the games that they need to make up, and the games that they can't play over the next 3 or 4 days at least need to be forfeited. Then everybody gets wins for those games. It's not going to be distributed equally, but that's just the luck of the draw here. Yeah. And then, whenever they're ready, they can resume their schedule. They're not making the playoffs. They're out of the playoff race. What is the point?
Well, they're not out of the playoff race, unfortunately.
They are out of the playoffs.
They're mostly out of the playoff race. I agree. If Montreal doesn't collapse, they're out of the playoff race. Okay. But the issue is they are almost even with Calgary in a lot of ways. I mean, you look at the win percentage, like Calgary's win percentage is 477, Vancouver's is 473. So it's like, at the end of the day, win percentage wise, they're right there. And if they win their games in hand or continue to win at the same pace that they're winning now, it's, Montreal has to collapse. Okay. That's what has to happen. But I wish we could just let Montreal play their games, and say, okay, what happens? If Montreal, give Montreal a magic number of, you need 5 wins, you get 5 wins, you're in. No. Because that's probably what about it would be. So to me, it's kind of crazy.
Now, the interesting thing is, because right now we're in a state of limbo here because we don't know. Edmonton doesn't know if they're playing Vancouver tomorrow night. The Leafs don't know if they have to fly to Vancouver to play Saturday and Monday.
Right.
Today at practice, the Leafs, Austin Matthews didn't skate. He's not playing tonight. It's some sort of day-to-day injury. It doesn't sound like anything of major consequence that's going to keep him out long term. Mm-hmm. But if they're not playing Saturday and Monday against Vancouver, then basically, okay, then Austin Matthews is going to get 4 or 5 days off. And if it's something like a wrist injury,
I'm keeping him off no matter what, Mike.
Right.
There's no reason to send him to Vancouver. At this point, I would put my stars. I wouldn't send there anyway.
He's already had COVID, and I know there's a variant.
There's another thought here. What Eck is saying is, sorry, Mike. Why put these guys on a plane?
Why put them on a plane? And then these guys that already had COVID, I don't care. Like, they are at the point now where they're so. I mean, they haven't officially clinched a playoff spot yet, but they're basically there. And to me, like, they should start considering now, like the good old, Jay Snyder, whatever it was, the thing where you leave out Bobby Clark a couple games, you leave out this guy a couple games, leave out this guy, make these guys force them to take vacations for a couple games right now to get ready for the playoffs. Like, they should absolutely be resting players. So why not, if Matthews has any issues at all, there's no point in sending him.
Well, that was my first reaction, because a couple days ago Sheldon Keefe said, with the extra players that they're going to be getting with Foligno and they were going to start giving the veteran guys like Spezza or Thornton a day off. And it's like, it smacks of load management. And but with this, they're saying Matthews has a day-to-day injury. But what I'm saying is maybe it is load management, because if they're not going to travel to Vancouver, then he's going to have 4 or 5 days off to recover from whatever the injury is, or to get a rest.
Just to get rested. I don't even care about the injury. Like, just rest him. Rest him.
They're not going to not send Matthews if the team is going. Everybody's going.
Why wouldn't you send? Why would you not send them? You can rest them. You're at the point where they should just rest them. They should. I mean, the teams have done this in the past. Like I said, there was a time when the Flyers did this, and players got so pissed off. I mean, this is the Bobby Clark era.
Well,
Bobby Clark was sent to Florida for a week in the middle of the season.
I know.
It was just ridiculous. It was just crazy.
And I heard Jeff Merrick talk about this on a podcast. Apparently, like in '94. It was a year where Scotty Bowman rested Yzerman, rested Fedorov, rested Lidstrom. Yeah,
because they were so far out front of it.
And they lost in the first round. So, that's the risk. It's the risk you take.
That's almost superstitious in a way.
Yeah, news that Wade Ellison's going to make his debut tonight for the Flyers.
Oh, very good. I got to get one thing.
I'll wait till Eck gets back while he muffles his dog. Who's
I just need to come over there and show him what to do. I think that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, I know. Well, he can't prevent the dog from hearing the dulcet
tone.
No,
he can. There's a way.
He's got to get a pair of Beats headphones and put them on the dog so they can't hear my voice. Now, Russ, last night I watched a little bit of the Vegas Golden Knights and the LA Kings.
Right.
and I turned the game on early, and Jonathan Quick was in goal, and I turned it back maybe 10 minutes later, and Cal Peterson was in goal.
Yeah, the first goal by Quick wasn't great, even though it was a 2-on-1. It hit off his glove, I think. It looked ugly. I turned it off after that.
Well, okay. Quick allowed 3 goals on 8 shots.
Yeah.
And this is just, again, Jonathan Quick is not Jonathan Quick anymore.
No, I mean, and he's played the most games of any U.S. goalie, and that's great, but it looks like he has at this point.
He's not even a reasonable facsimile of Jonathan Quick anymore.
He's not.
He's not.
My dog will not be bothering us anymore.
Okay.
Whoa.
I'm kidding. He probably will be any second.
Yeah, but
I just try to talk with him. I'm like, listen, it's the podcast. It would be nice if you shut up for a second. This is what I'm doing, guys. I don't understand this. I give him a bone. I tried the peanut butter. Okay. He's a corgi. Russ, have you ever dealt with corgis before?
No. I have an expert in the house. I'll find out.
They're bastards. We have 2 girl corgis, and bitches can be crazy. So they're like, and we have 2 female dogs here.
Right.
So you have these things, and it's like, I have my door to the outside open so they can just go in and out, because that's what usually barking. Usually when they hear Mike's voice, for some reason they want to get out of the house quickly.
I mean, a lot of people.
A lot of people have that.
Usually that's women.
Fantastic.
Here's my solution. I have a solution.
I tried the butter thing. The dogs didn't like it. I thought it was pretty good. I tasted it myself. Go ahead.
Here's the solution.
Okay.
About a half hour before the show, because again, now you're sort of training these dogs at a certain time of the day to act a certain way. About a half hour or 15 minutes before the show, play an old show. Have them sitting or whatever, sitting and laying down, play an old show where Mike talks. If they react, you say no and you correct them. And when they actually are good, you say good and you give them a treat. And you work it that way. And you have to do that a few minutes every day. So then after a while, they don't give a crap about Mike.
I need an intern for this. I need to get an intern. I need an intern on this, Russ. This seems like something that a person like me should not be wasting their time with. I'm kidding. Mike, I need you to make a videotape of yourself just talking to the dogs. I will put that videotape on a half hour before the show. You maybe talk about progressive rock or something. Just do something. Talk.
Hey, just play Rockology. That'll work. It's basically
anyway. So now they can come in and out. So the dogs should not be barking because they're coming out, right?
Right.
But apparently there's a groundhog in the backyard. So that's why she was going nuts out there. Okay. So I go out there and I see the groundhog who's just, because our dogs are fenced. We have a fence down the middle of our yard so the dogs can go on one side and not the other. Just so we only have to clean one side of our yard. The groundhog's on the other side of the fence. Stella's here and they're just looking at each other.
Do you live at African lion safari or something like that? You got a fox, you got a groundhog.
No, I know we have salt licks in the back for moose whenever they want to come by.
Okay,
we have
there is another solution that you decided you didn't want to do because of the cost. But if you buy like a massive pack of bully sticks, yes, it'll cost you like $80.
I did. I bought it. I went to Costco and I bought 2 of them.
Chew through one. My dog cannot chew through one in a half hour. So
they fight. When I give them bully sticks,
then
I try to give each one of them, but whichever one my little dog has is the one that matters. Okay, so like I give like Stella a bully stick, I give Panda a bully stick. Panda's the older one. Stella's like the younger one. She's so big and it's not just. Sorry, we're wasting a lot of time. I apologize. But so what happens is it's only April 15th. So anyway, the dog. What happens is if Panda has this bone, it becomes Bone Wars. Like it doesn't matter. Stella's bone.
No, I get it. You have to separate them when they're doing it. 2 different rooms.
2 different rooms. All right, I could try that.
All right, so
thank you. Let's move on. I appreciate it. Russ, we'll try this. I'll play the video of Mike talking about progressive rock. I will put them out there. I will have the whole thing together, and I will get it together. Okay.
That's how you have to do it.
Guitarist. No. Okay. So, all right.
Oh God.
Now,
all right. Where were we?
This was my point. Jonathan Quick last night.
Jonathan Quick.
The Kings are barely in the playoff race. Mathematically, yes. Realistically, no. And they start Jonathan Quick, and he allows 3 goals on 8 shots. Now, this is not a microcosm of the season, but if you look at Jonathan Quick's stats, he's got a save percentage, I believe, under 900. This is not Jonathan Quick anymore. The Jonathan Quick in goal in 2021 is not the Jonathan Quick in our memories.
Well, for sure.
He is done. And I'm not saying he can't play in the NHL anymore, but as a linchpin number one starting goaltender, those days are gone. So I honestly, they're protecting Cal Peterson in the expansion draft, and they're exposing Quick,
but nobody's taking Quick.
And nobody's taking Quick. So
nobody's taking Quick. I'm not. Listen, what I talked about Quick, I don't know. This is not like big news. The Quick has been done for a bit, but I think that the one I talk about Quick there are GMs out there and people out there in hockey that have this thing about goalies, that they feel like a goalie that has won before, if put into a situation where and LA is not a situation like this, a situation where they could possibly win again, can step up and find that level again. That's the feeling. I don't know. It's happened a couple times in the league before, I guess.
Right. I'm going to say where I think that's antiquated. I know that used to be a thing, but let's just bring up the Rangers last year. They brought in Lundqvist after sitting him for X amount of games, 10 games or whatever. He played reasonably well, but he didn't lead his team to victory. I just don't think you can do it anymore. I don't think that's the case. Yeah. I think the game has changed so much that, unfortunately, if you want to bring in Quick as just the mentor to your young goalie and he only has to play once in a while, that's fine. But at this point, Cal Peterson is their number one goalie, and they're just trying to keep Jonathan Quick happy. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan Quick right now, 306 goals against, 8-9-2 record, 890 save percentage, and Cal Peterson has a worse winning record of 7-11-4, but is a 2.74 and a 918 save percentage.
Right, with the same defense. So
with the same defense. So
right, with the same defense. I'm with you.
Now the other thing,
those are all the points. I get that.
Yeah, the only other thing goaltender related was that Frederik Andersen made his first appearance on the ice since March the 20th at the morning skate today.
What was the time on March the 20th? Do we know? Did they say it was like at 5:07 p.m.?
I didn't have my sundial out, Russ.
Yeah, the Angels. So it's unbelievable the amount of detail that we will get from Canada.
I know.
About
the media. It's like an angel appeared. It's like an angel appeared upon the media in Toronto and said,
There's
Anderson is about to arrive.
There's nothing wrong with detail, Russ. Not one
nothing
thing.
wrong with detail. Like the Canadians who let us watch Victor Mete skate around 2 hours the other day during trade deadline. These things are important.
But my point being, so it's April 15th. The last game of the season is May the 12th. So that's a little under a month. I would seriously doubt Frederik Andersen is getting into a game in 3 weeks. Yeah. I don't know. Brandon Pridham and Kyle Dubas know a lot more about the Leafs cap situation, and they did get Rittich at half the money, and they did get Foligno at a quarter of the money. So it might be possible for them to fit Anderson under the cap by probably sending 2 or 3 players to the taxi squad. But unless they're 100% sure that he is completely healthy, I don't think they're going to risk bringing him back before the end of the regular season.
They're not going to risk Matt Campbell's winning streak. That's what they're not going to risk.
Oh, that's over with, Russ. He lost.
That's true. He lost. I forgot about that.
I want to talk for a little bit in the time we have.
11-1. So they,
11-1, yes. Go ahead.
We have left. I would like to talk. Today on my blog, you can see I did all the math. And you can see, I'm not going to talk about this today because we talked about this before, but I did all the math as to how the Rangers can make the playoffs. Okay, so it's all there. It's all easy to look at, and it makes sense. So it's not. I tried to do it as simple as possible, and show you how it can happen. So I won't get into that now. But what I'd like to talk about.
One question I have for you is: did the math tell you how many games Shesterkin's going to play compared to the backup goalie?
It's like that Zach Galifianakis GIF on Twitter with all the functions and things. I think it's a scene from.
What the math shows you, okay, is it takes what has been happening, so far, like how many points per game when, like, say the Rangers play the Islanders, the Rangers are averaging 0.43 points per game, okay, against the Islanders. And if they've got 3 more games against the Islanders and they continue that pace, means they'll get a couple over points or whatever, or maybe 1 in 4 games, and that's what the math tells you. Okay, so it's like that's what it tries to do. It tries to extrapolate. And the main reason, and then here's one of the most fascinating stats that came out of this whole process that I was doing was this. there have been, okay, so think about this. There's 56 possible combinations in each division, right, of matchups, like so-and-so versus so-and-so. 8 teams, each team plays 7 times. So 56 combinations. Like, so you can like the Florida Panthers, you know, have gotten 0.67 points per game against the Carolina Hurricanes. Okay, that kind of thing. So there's 56 of those. And then the Carolina Hurricanes against Panthers, that's another one of those. So it's like, that's how this plays out. Okay, so think about that. 56 times 50 plus 56 plus 56 plus the other one in your division is 42 because 7 and 6. So it ends up with 219, somewhere around 219 possible things. Okay. How many of those, Mike, do you think show a team has averaged less than 1 point per game? So, because you would think normally that would be like, so you know what I mean? So, like, you know, how many less than 1 point per game? Do you understand what I'm saying at all?
I understand what you're saying, but math was my worst subject, so I won't even hazard to guess.
Okay, but the concept of this is basically I'm trying to show you how many 1 point games there are. So this gives, and how important that is, because like basically without 1 point games, everybody would just get either 2 points or no points in a game.
Right.
But you know, but since so you have, when you have all these like 0.67 for Florida versus Carolina in their 5 games, that means that, you know, Carolina's mostly had 1 more games, but Florida's gotten points there, so they're averaging out. You know, it's not, they're not just getting 0 for the 5 games; they get 0.67. So anyway, 28% of the games, 28%, which when you go the other way is what, 72% of those matchups of the 219, 72% of them are over 1 or over, which means that it's an incredible thing. Like, you think about that. It's like the points that are being given out for losses are just astonishing. Like, the amount of points that are giving out for losses are astonishing. It's like, it's beyond anything. 72%. That's a crazy, crazy thing. I mean, it's only 28% of the time, you know, do you get our team's getting pretty much getting 0. It's pretty much what that comes out to. I mean, you know, so it's just nuts. Anyway, what I thought was kind of interesting to look at, and, you know, we only have like 10 minutes. So I'm just going to go through this. I wanted to go to the Central Division because I'm going to write about it tomorrow, but I'd like to kind of give you guys a little preview on here about the Central Division and how this should play out based on the projections. Because right now we have 3 teams tied with 58 points at the top of that division. Like, there's 3 teams with 58 points. Tampa has more points. Tampa's played, let's see. Florida's played more games. Florida's played 43. Tampa's played 42. Carolina's played 41. But all 3 teams have 58 points.
Yes.
And it's pretty interesting. So Carolina, who do you think they played the best against this year? I was looking through this. You know, they played the best. The team they played the best against is Florida. We talked about this, but actually, I thought it would be Florida. Actually, it's Nashville, which Carolina has averaged 2 points per game against Nashville, which means they've gotten 2 points every game they played against Nashville, which tells you that, you know, because that's the only way you can average 2 points a game against Nashville. Is to get, the only way you can average 2 points is by actually winning every freaking game. They have 4 games left against Nashville. Carolina does. So Carolina in their 4 games so far has won all 4 of them. 4 games left. That's you know, Nashville's playing a little better now, so maybe that changes, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean they played great over the last 3 or 4 weeks, but
right.
This is the thing. This is the thing that I said a couple days ago, and I think is even more true now based on the fact that Carolina's got 15 games left, and Tampa and Florida have less. Carolina should go basically balls out to win that division because I want to be, if my goal as Hurricanes is to make the semifinals, I want the Panthers and the Lightning to kill each other in the first round, which they will, because and you know, it'll be a war. It'll be
an absolute war, and right now Carolina should want to play Nashville. Like I said, they've won all 4 games they played. Now tonight, they have 4 more games, so that's a big thing for Carolina. Tonight they play each other, Carolina and Nashville. So that's why I wanted to talk about this now. It's an interesting thing, you know, because, you know, will Nashville finally get a win? This is the best Nashville's been playing. They're playing against Carolina. It's on NBCSN, so it's the big. No, it's not actually. Tampa and Florida is on NBCSN. So Nashville and Carolina. And then Tampa and Florida play. So this battle for the Central, where, as I was saying, all 3 of those teams have 58 points, is going to get really interesting tonight.
You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, it's going to get really interesting tonight. Now, so how this plays out, you know, the 4 teams that are in right now are going to make the playoffs pretty solidly. It's pretty hard for anybody to catch them, right? So And not impossible, though. I would say not impossible because Chicago.
No, don't start.
Come on, please.
There is.
It's possible.
Somebody in the chat room or somebody out there in YouTube comment the fact that you understand what I'm saying. This is actually interesting because
it's mathematically possible. Yes, just like I've said, just like I'm going to take Puck Craze model out on a date, but it's not going to happen.
Predators are 1 point. No, wait. They're 4 points.
4 points.
They're 4 points, but again ahead of Chicago. But Chicago's a game in hand. That's a 2-point thing.
And Chicago divested themselves of a couple of their better players. Soderberg was having a decent year. Janmark was having a decent year.
They are 7 points out of Dallas, but Dallas has 3 games ahead. So I mean, this is not impossible. They are going to make it according to my thing. They will make it. The Predators will make it by they'll actually win. They're projecting to get 62 points.
See,
and Dallas and Chicago will both end up with 57. So that's like a 5-point ending.
It's not impossible, but we've talked about this for years. The advent of the 3-point game makes it patently absurd.
That's the difference here with what I've done this year is I really focused on that because that's why, like I was trying to explain to Mike Russ while you're away, that the incredible aspect of you would think people would how many points would a team average against the other team? It's usually around, I would think 1 point is the team's going 500 pretty much, you would think, because each team would get 1 point, but that's not basically how it works. So the incredible thing about this is, yes, you're right. But in this, what I did this year was I took the fact that if teams have played close games before, the chances of them playing another 3-point game matters more. That's a big factor I put into this. You
actually have a better belief that the Blackhawks will make the playoffs than Stan Bowman does.
No, yeah. I know the chances are. I mean, if you're going to play the odds, they're not going to. But the Predators have to keep keep going here. But as this plays out the rest of the way, the Predators would pick up another 13 points. The Hawks another 12, and the Stars another 15. So it's possible here for sure. Now, like I said, anything can happen. But what I found was interesting was the top of this division, how it plays out is Carolina will win this division. By 5 points actually. Over and then Carolina with 81, the Tampa was 76 and Florida was 74. That's how it plays out. And then so then you'll get the Florida battle we want, the Battle of Florida, which I really want to see.
Just so breaking news, Tyler Seguin skated with the team this morning. But they're not rushing him back. They said April 26th.
I have to clarify one thing though. Anderson did not practice. He came on the ice before practice, so there's a long distance between him being on the ice and participating in practice. Go on, Eck.
Right. No, so I'm just and yet somehow the reason I started doing all this stuff. I don't love doing math myself, at all, believe it or not. But the reason I started doing this, I got really frustrated with the percentage of making the playoff stuff that we saw in the past, that's out there on the other websites, right? Because I thought the way it was figured out, they have a 60% chance of making the playoffs, a 20% chance of making the playoffs, something like that. We're highly flawed because they didn't take so many factors into account. So that's what I'm trying to play against here. But I think then one more interesting thing about this division that was really fascinating. Okay, the Detroit Red Wings, who we know are terrible, but so obviously the best team they played against in the entire division, that they have a 1.14 average per game, that they've got 1.14 points against, is the Carolina Hurricanes, which is interesting. The second best team they played against is the Tampa Bay Lightning at 0.83.
Yeah, I noticed them giving the Lightning trouble just from afar.
Yeah, the third best team is the Florida Panthers at 0.75. The fourth best team is Nashville at 0.63. Honestly, the funny thing what I'm saying is these are inverted. These are in order. They've played better against teams that are higher in the standings than they have in the lower in the standings, with the exception of finally Columbus, where it's just they have a 1.2 against Columbus. But besides that,
I want to say this. I don't know if this will happen, but I get the feeling just with the way Carolina is sort of insulated themselves on what they believe, how good they believe they are, and everything else, that they could be ripe for a first-round loss. They could be the next Tampa Bay Lightning losing in the first round.
Yeah. Oh, if they play Nashville, we're going to preview that tonight because
I don't think that's impossible.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's impossible either. But I also think, and I wanted to see if Nashville could actually catch Florida because people were talking about that, the other day.
Yeah,
and they can't. They can't. There's really no way they can. Honestly, that is completely. It's not realistic at all. I mean, they are 9 points behind Florida right now, so that's just like that would be like the Flyers. It would be like the Flyers making the playoffs, which is also not happening.
Not gonna happen.
But I write about why it won't happen today in my blog. So check it out. You'll see. I'm doing this thing called Extinct or Alive now, which I think is kind of fun, based on a show that I like on the Nature Channel that goes and finds animals that might be extinct or alive. So, and then today's Extinct or Alive, the Rangers and Flyers. So, I have the Flyers are not extinct, but they're extremely endangered. And
God, you just have them as endangered,
critically endangered, which means there's maybe 5 of them still wandering around in the wilderness somewhere, Russ. But it's not looking good.
The Jersey Devil is extinct.
There is as extinct as like the pocket passenger pigeon.
Oh, believe me,
around in 50 years.
The craziest thing, they were from my town. My town used to be called Pigeon Town because this was where they were. I'm dead serious. The pocket passenger pigeon was from here. That's 100% true.
That's funny.
Isn't that great? So, but here's the craziest thing. The one thing about the last thing I'll say, Mike, is this: the fact that the Flyers and Rangers are 2 points apart, right? The incredible aspect of this that they are 55 points apart in goal differential and 2 points apart in the standings is just something I've never seen before. Like I can't even fathom. Like the Rangers being up positive 24, the Rangers being minus 31, and then being the Flyers minus 31, the Rangers plus 24, 55 points apart. But only 2 points in the standings with the same amount of games played. So that tells you that the Rangers are way better than they should. They should be doing way better than they are, and the Flyers should be doing way worse than they are.
They should be, but they've had some issues. The passenger pigeon, the last known one was in 1914.
Yeah, I know. But when you drive in my town, it's my town. I used to live in the town next door, so I will say. But Blue Bell, Pennsylvania, where I used to live, which is the town next door. You're driving, it says, "Welcome to Blue Bell, formerly Pigeon Town." That's what it says.
Okay, a couple things. There is a $70 million discrepancy regarding the.
I knew I misplaced money.
Regarding the building of the new arena in Calgary, and apparently that that may cause a shutdown. Now, apparently, from what I know from people in Calgary, the Saddle Dome is a crap hole. It is old. It is falling apart. We had the flooding a few years ago. They need a new building, and there was a whole empty threat a few years ago about the Flames moving out of Calgary, which
I remember that
happened. But I mean, it just never seems that anything can go smoothly with Calgary. There's always these problems. Edmonton, got their building built.
It's so true. I don't know what it is about Calgary and the government there and everything else, but I don't know if it's all the oil and that makes it a slippery slope, but in Edmonton it should have been too. But
that was a reach. And the other thing is, and Russ, you and I discussed this yesterday, the Sportsnet took the escape clause in their contract with the CHL after the CHL shut down their season, and almost immediately after escaping that, TSN announced a 3-year deal with the CHL.
Yeah, I think TSN's smart to do it. I think simply because they need more viewing and they need more hockey on their channel. There's no question because they don't have NHL games.
Well, the question is, are they actually going to get it? Because right now they don't. The CHL for next year is in question.
I know. I think they will get it. And if listen, you can't blame Sportsnet because they haven't had good CHL coverage, and it's not their fault for a year and a half now. I mean, I don't blame either side for this, but I think TSN was smart to pick it up.
And the roster for the U.S. roster for the under 18s was just announced this morning, and Jack Hughes.
No, that's a different Jack Hughes.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Excuse me.
There is a different Jack Hughes.
Okay, so then this is what I mean. A different Jack Hughes.
Just to confuse everybody.
And I'm thinking of Luke Hughes because.
Yes, Luke. But
people
psychology if they want. I did see some of those players at the All-American Prospects game, so I did write up some of those players. But believe it or not, there's some There's at least one 2022 guy on there. There's one 2023, and I only looked at it quickly. There could be more. So it just shows you that there's some real good youth coming through this U.S. system now. That's going to be exciting.
Now, one of my friends on the Devils wanted me to ask you this question, Russ, because he really wants the Devils to draft the other Hughes.
Luke Hughes.
Luke Hughes coming up. You think that and he's pretty much probably where the Devils will pretty much be picking, right? Like he's ranked in that area, right? Like 3, 4.
Is. The only issue is we don't know to what extent the recent injury that he had was. It wasn't disclosed, and I'm sure the Devils will get the medicals on that. But he is smart. He's fast. He is probably a good offensive defenseman. I don't know if he's a great offensive defenseman, but in other words, I don't think he's going to be the point guy that Quinn is, but he is bigger and he is fast. And so I think there's a really good role for him. I think instead of being like a 1 or a 2, he's probably a 2 or a 4.
The comparison I was told was Morgan Riley from Toronto.
I don't think he has the offense that Riley has.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and Riley has lost it over the years only because that's the way the Leafs want him to play. But the Riley and juniors, he had it. And Riley, what they worried about him was the knee surgery, and he still had the 2-step quickness after the knee surgery. So if Hughes is fine, you're getting him based on his IQ and his skating, and then the rest will come around.
And he's the biggest. He's the biggest of the Hughes brothers.
Yes,
he's 6'2", 180 pounds. Which Jack is, I think, 5'9", and Quinn is about.
You think it benefits having young brothers like that together?
Yeah,
sure.
No question about it. There is no downside to it.
Yeah.
You look at the Flyers with the Cates brothers. You look at the Stahl brothers. They eventually played together. 2 of them. There is no downside.
The Sedins, you can think about.
Yeah, the Sedins. Well, they share one brain, it seems. So
yeah,
I mean, but there really is no downside to it. I do like Luke Hughes. I need to know about the injury though.
Yeah, interesting. Yep. Okay, that's good. All right, that's all the time we have for today, folks. Believe it or not, tomorrow is still this week. It's only Friday. We were talking about that yesterday when we left. It really feels as this week is endless, but we actually haven't reached Friday tomorrow. Somehow, we'll be back again to talk about that. We'll have after the games tonight. There's a lot of games tonight, so enjoy tonight. Make sure you have your NHL package working overtime and all your TV set to different things. I really think that the Tampa Florida game is going to be a fun one to watch. Florida's going to have. I don't know who Florida's going to have of the new guys in yet, probably, but have we heard about that yet? Is anything about
I haven't noticed it.
I'm Sam Bennett. We don't know what's the deal with Sam Bennett. He would have to be a little bit longer than this.
He's going to be longer because there's a quarantine that's going to go on with Bennett.
Well, no, it's Canada to the U.S.
The U.S., right?
There's still a quarantine.
Well, there was with Line, but
I think there's still 3 days, Mike, where he has to test negative for 3 days.
Okay,
something like that. So I'm not sure. He might. Hopefully,
that might not be. That might not be a government. If you're going to Canada, it's 7 days. That's the government. It might be an NHL provision that they have to test for 3 days coming from wherever.
Is there any word out there about Bennett anywhere? We can look into. Anyway, but that'll be.
I'll check. But
yeah, and if there is, because that's the game I think to watch tonight. I really do. I think
what will be interesting is to see who starts in goal for Florida. It's Dredger. Yeah. I mean, at a certain
point, I want to ask this question.
Yeah.
Who really believes that Florida is not going to make a deal with Seattle to keep Dredger on the roster rather than letting Seattle get him, or is he a UFA?
He's a UFA.
Okay, so he's a UFA, but still, what is the odds then that they are going to sign him to a deal to come back to Florida with all the goaltending stuff they have going on?
According to Joel Quenneville, Bennett will be in the lineup on Saturday. He will not play tonight.
Seattle, I'm offering a contract to Dredger.
Smart.
Yeah. I mean, he's a UFA, so there's not much they can do. So they don't have to worry about it, right? Because they don't have to protect him because he is a UFA.
No, they don't have to protect him, but anybody could offer him a contract, right? And there is going to be a point where Florida looks at this and says, we can't spend $15 million on goaltending, as an example.
Yeah, that's true. No, that's true. And And obviously,
It won't
yeah,
be that high, but-
they're going to want to get Knight in there at some point. Obviously, so.
Yeah, but he could go 1 year in the AHL. But you figure Drager's going to want a 3-year deal at the minimum.
Yeah.
With the way he's played, and this is his one chance to cash in.
He's gonna get the Scott Darling contract. Look how that worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be interested to see. I'm really going to be interested to see tonight who's in goal as well. They're saying Drager in the chat room.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what I
and let's
expect.
not
I think Drager's their playoff goalie right now. I really do.
I think he is too. Let's not forget Jeff Carter plays against the Flyers tonight, so that's.
Oh yeah, the Flyers really just like they this always works out perfectly for them that way. Like they have to play Raffle right away. Now you're gonna have to go against Carter and
they will show Ron Hextall in the box. Don't worry.
God.
Will this game be played at Dry Island?
Here's what I predict. I predict if Jeff Carter scores a goal in this game, they will go right up to the box where Ron Hextall is.
And he'll be doing this. He'll be doing this.
Eck, your thoughts?
Without the buzz.
I think you're 100% right. I agree. That's what's going to happen, right? Definitely, because there's no question. I mean, whoever it could work out, that's how it works out. That way. And I will see. We'll see how this plays out. But the Flyers have had the Penguins number this year. Let's see if that's changed now. Let's find out. We'll find out somewhere.
We'll find out.
Tonight will be the night when if this is actually the team that can help get the Flyers out of their funk, perhaps, but only temporarily, perhaps. We'll see.
Well, technically, see what usually gets the Flyers out of their funk playing the Penguins is Malkin does something stupid and it fires them up. Malkin's not playing.
It's true. That's a good point. Malkin's not playing. So I'm looking at it. It's gonna be weird. Carter in a Penguins uniform. That's gonna be fun. Definitely fun. Winnipeg at Toronto. That's another good one tonight.
Yeah, Winnipeg played last night, but so second of back-to-back, but the Leafs don't have Matthews, so that should balance it out a little bit. We'll see.
In the Rangers-Boston battle tonight, the Islanders, are in Boston. That's a tough one. Obviously, Boston has not played well against the Islanders at all. They've only got like 1 point so far out of the series, and the Rangers are again at home against the Devils. So again, another chance for the Rangers to narrow that. It's not that far right now, man. It's only 4 points. It's like.
That's all it is. It's only 4 points and 2 games in hand.
2 games in hand, but those are not.
Don't forget those.
All that has to happen is them to get a few of those points from the Sabres. Like if they win all 5 games straight out from the Sabres, then the Boston.
You've already assumed Boston losing tonight. What if they get a point?
Yeah, they get a point tonight. That's fine. But are they gonna take 10 points from the Sabres in the next 5 games? That's the big question.
Yes.
No. They will take. I will predict right now. They will take 7 of 10. How about that?
You know what? It doesn't even matter. At the end of the day, if they are at full strength for the last 2 games of the year, which I think the last 2 are against the Sabres, they will take all those 4 points.
All right. Maybe. We'll see. All right. Time will tell, Russ. Time will tell. Remember, without the buzz, folks, it is just hockey. We will be back here again tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the